Well, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you guys. This is crazy. So this is the 50th episode of this live stream, the daily brief that I've been doing. The 50th. I've been doing this 50 times. So 50 times I've come on here and just basically read the news. So kind of wild. It's went by extremely fast. My goodness. But I will say this, it's actually been very fun. I've actually enjoyed this. You would think at some point you might feel a little bit of a burnout from doing this type of thing, but I find it extremely fun. I wake up in the morning, I do my typical Bible study, prayer time, all that kind of stuff, and then I go into just kind of reading through some books that I'm reading, and then I end up just kind of perusing the news articles. I just throw them into this little web browser and have multiple tabs open. I just say, okay, that's going to be what I'm going to talk about today. I like the headlines. So today's no different. I literally just went through just some news sources and just went through and grabbed some that the headlines looked good, looked relevant, something to talk about today. Guys, just so you guys know, sometimes I might read through the articles. Sometimes I might go a little bit deeper into them. If they're really intriguing, I find myself kind of reading it early. Other times, I literally just see the headline. I'm like, well, that's a good topic to talk about. And I just throw it in and open up a tab. And then I go live. That is literally my routine. I had somebody ask me yesterday, like, how much planning do you do before you do this show? And I told him, I was like, zero. I don't really do any planning on this. I literally just have a few, news sources that I've always read for many, many years. And every morning I'd wake up and I'd go through those news articles and I would just digest it. And then most of the time I would take information I'm learning in the news and real estate and I would talk about it as in meetings with my own agents. And then I just decided to do this live stream, come on here and just have this time just to kind of invite you kind of in, drink coffee with me, hang out and go over some of the real estate news to help us all stay on point. So that's what this is. It's not overcomplicated. It's very simple. I have all the errors and mistakes, technology, all that kind of stuff constantly always happens. It's just the way it works. Beautiful thing about live streaming, right? But it is the 50th episode. So that part is just kind of exciting. We're going to blink and it's going to be the 100th. And I might have to do something special for the 100th. I probably should have done something kind of cool for the 50th, but the 100th sounds way cooler. So I do thank you guys for being here. I want to start off real quick. So I meant to do this yesterday, is if you look this shelf behind me right here, there's a gap right there. Okay, so you see that gap. Well, in all my previous live streams, there was not a gap. There was not a gap. Matter of fact, my kids decided to put this on the shelf. a little Burger King crown. We went to Burger King about a month or so ago, maybe a couple weeks ago. And apparently they came and they put it on that shelf in the background right there. So I saw it the other day. I was like, oh boy, that's been in there for a while. So I went ahead and took it down yesterday because I was doing some recordings for meetings and I took it down. But let me know in the comments if you think I should leave that on my shelf. It's just kind of funny. They put like random knickknacks on my shelf. They just kind of randomly show up. This is just some insight into my life. That my kids like to prank me. There's this thing too. This little hand. My son loves Legos, so he does all kinds of cool little things. But yeah, he built that. So. There's just all kinds of little random things that will show up on my my book stand here. But anyway, I did have somebody a couple weeks ago ask me what are all my books and stuff. So if you guys want to, if everybody's interested, I love those like that up there in the top right corner. That's actually a puzzle box. I like little puzzle boxes and sitting down and trying to solve those. Just sitting down and relaxing. I find that mentally stimulating. So I got a few of those scattered around. People keep asking me about that little ball up there. I've got a few comments like, hey, what's that big ball in the background of your stream? And I was like, well, that's actually a cannonball. It's a cannonball that the team I helped coach with my daughter on it for cross country ran a race that for the top two finishers, team-wise, would get a cannonball as a trophy. So I got given that cannonball for coaching the girls cross-country team. So that's what that is. I think that's the only thing people asked about. That was another one. People asked about what this is. This is an autographed baton, where you pass in the Olympics and things like that, by Nick Symmonds. He was a pro runner, Olympian, and that kind of stuff. And it's just an autographed baton by him. So, kind of cool. As you can see, I like running. So there you go. I think that's all I've been asked about the shelf. There's a bunch of little random knickknacks on there. So I think somebody even asked me the other day, is like, hey, is that just a fake background, or is that really your books? So there you go. It's really my books. It's my little knickknacks and that kind of stuff. Give you a little bit of idea about my personality and what I'm into. So anyway, that was a major bunny trail. But it's the 50th episode, so I figure, hey, why not have a little bit more fun, right? So with all that being said, let me just set the stage, a little bit of groundwork about what we're going to be talking about today and kind of what this show's about. You guys that are regulars, you kind of know exactly what I do here. Basically, I come live Monday through Thursday when I can, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. The recording for these shows, I apologize. I'm not the greatest at social media. Like, that is not my thing, to be honest. I read about it, I study it. I just don't have a lot of time to do it. So the live stream is just simple, easy, very simple for me. So I don't know, like, if TikTok and Rumble, all those places my live streams live on. But what I do know is on YouTube, they do. Like, if you go to my YouTube channel, you can go there and look for The Real Estate Advantage. It's a picture of me. Consider subscribing if you like the content here. And inside of there, you'll see all of my past live streams. But what I do here is very simple. Like I was already saying, is I just basically invite you to kind of come into my own home office here, grab a cup of coffee, and we just kind of go through the news. I give you some of my observations and talk through it. And, sometimes I get, very opinionated. Sometimes I don't, whatever. It's a show. We're trying to have fun, dissect and get information and understand things and all that kind of stuff. That's the whole point. So that's what I do. Before I begin, I forgot to pull this up, and I don't know if there's any changes in the mortgage rate. Let's see, daily mortgage. News daily. Yeah, okay. I thought I read an article, and this is the crazy thing is we're still fluctuating in a lot of different areas when it comes to the interest rate, and we did. Yesterday we were actually down like 0.02. Now we're up 0.07. So we're sitting there for the 30-year fixed rate. We're sitting at 6.49. So for those out there that like to track interest rate, which consumers do, like, that's a very big talking point. Right now for 30-year fixed, 6.49, 15-year fixed, 6 even. Then you've got your FHA and VA. It's still right below 6, 5.95 and 5.97, but we're getting close to being above 6, even on the FHA and VA loans. But what I like is you can kind of see the trends. Gives you an idea. All right. For those that love to stay for the whole thing, or those that maybe want to know what's coming up, let me give you what those articles are, just so you know what is coming up in the show before we actually get started with the show, so you know if you want to stay or not. So hopefully you do consider staying and you gain some information from this as well. So today, I'm going to begin with an article from Inman. Like, I just like Inman. I'm not an affiliate. I say this every time because I don't want people to think like, oh, Adam, he's sitting here trying to get, Inman and trying to get money off of Inman and sponsorship. They don't offer that, guys. Like, I got that asked. You always recommend Inman. I said, yeah, because it's a real estate specific news industry. So it's not that I gain anything by you guys signing up or using them. It's literally just a good source for information in regards to the real estate industry, and specifically for real estate agents. So that's obviously why I use it a lot and I mention it a lot. But the first article we're going to talk about is Musk, OpenAI, and a trust problem that isn't going away. The subheading is the AI industry built its reputation on responsibility. Musk versus OpenAI puts that story to the test. Now, this sounds like a very broad topic. Sounds like we're not even talking about real estate at all. But remember, it's Inman, so they're going to put a new real estate bent on this, and we will get into why and how this is important to real estate agents. So we'll be talking about that. Then we're going to jump into another article, and again by Inman, how to conduct an honest mid-year audit of your real estate business. Okay, so we're approaching that mid-year point. And if you are a goal setter and you start talking about the business goals that you have set at the beginning of the year, we're coming up on 6 months of that. So it's good to kind of step back and see how we're performing and what's going on. So that's what we're going to do today. I found this article this morning. I was like, you know what? This is a very relevant conversation because we do at our office and our company, we talk about goal setting at the very beginning of the year. We have goal setting classes. Internally, we have a program that agents can go through to help them calculate and figure out touch points and calls and conversions and all that kind of stuff to build up a nice business plan for them to work from every single year. So this is the point where we're going to go through this article talking about that and what that looks like. Then we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to just, I found a couple articles here talking about just construction trends, design, decor, those type of things. And it's fun to kind of look at these things to see what's happening in the industry as far as what people are looking for in their homes. But it's also very relevant for us to kind of help guide and understand what's going on when we start being asked questions like, how should I stage my home? What should I, invest in remodeling in my house? These are all very relevant conversations that we should be having with our clients. So understanding the trends will help us do that. So we're going to go through an article that says 5 new construction trends to watch this year. From stone fireplaces to show pantries, these 5 emerging home design trends are already influencing buyer expectations. And then the following up right after that, still the same kind of topic. It's what is the double drenching home trend? Now, I specifically went out and sought this article out because a few days ago, or maybe it was last week, there was a home we were looking at. I think it was J-Lo's house. It was for sale for a huge amount of money. But I had made a comment in that live stream about the room having full color, even the ceiling, everything the same color, but then accents of other color in there. And of course, I was talking to my wife about this, and she goes, "Oh, yeah, it's called drenching." So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a piggyback up off of that live stream just a little bit to bring context about what that trend is and how that works and how to use it effectively, just for conversation's sake. And then if we have time, which I doubt we will get to this point, but if we do, I'm just going to go over some quick little data points that NAR, the National Association of Realtors, released. And it's just talking about the home sales report and what that looks like month over month and year over year. We'll end with just some data points if we get time. Luke, good morning, buddy. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you taking some time to log in and listen to me talk, man. Hopefully I can provide some value for you and not waste your time. I do appreciate you being here. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the show so we can get started in talking. And just so you guys know, I love comments. I love chat. So feel free. Yeah, Luke, the cropping on the video doesn't look great, boss. Yeah, well, hey, thank you, man. Honestly, I'll take any kind of help in that category. So I'm not sure what it's doing. Oh, you're talking about on the TikTok. You're on the TikTok side. Yeah, I know, man. Yeah, honestly, I don't know TikTok that well. Like I've just kind of loaded this up and I'm running. I wish it worked inside of the other program that I'm using, and I don't know how to marry the two. So what can I say, man? It's not my forte. Yeah. So what other platform do I use? Hey, this is great. Thanks, man. So I originally used OBS for a lot of other streaming, and now I'm using Meld just because of the simplicity of that. To make changes and quick changes and edits for me, for whatever reason, my brain just works better with my brain. Hi, Farmer. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. So yeah, that's the setup I have, and I don't really know. Oh yeah. Oh, you mean on YouTube? Yeah. So I am on YouTube. Farmer, thank you for following. Yeah. So I am on YouTube. I've got that going as well, and then it's also Twitch. I just do that. Twitch is kind of weird because it's like a gaming platform, but it's like I can stream to there anyway. And I've been gaining some followers and things on there, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's a Twitch, YouTube. I'm doing Rumble. That's not much going on there. And then that's about it. That's about it. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate that. And just like I said, I love this kind of engagement because I can learn. So this is great, Luke. Thank you for reaching out and just kind of giving some observations. I appreciate that greatly. And also, Farmer, appreciate the follow. Thank you. Appreciate that greatly. Thank you. All right. Yeah, and if anybody has any advice as far as like making the live stream better and kind of how that might work or any kind of insight, feel free to DM me. Like I'm all about trying to learn. I don't know that arena that well. I just look, I'm a real estate broker kind of guy. This is just something I enjoy doing. So I am all in for learning how to do this better. So anyway, thanks guys. All right, let's go ahead and get started with this show. Welcome to the Real Estate Brief. I'm Adam. Today, we're going to cutting through the noise. We're going to get to the truth in the news. We're going to look at the data. I'm going to give you some of my observations and where I believe you can find opportunity. So if you're ready to gain your real estate edge, let's dive into our first story. And this first story is going to kind of seem like it's not really real estate related that much. But once we get through it, you're going to kind of understand how this kind of relates to real estate and what this looks like. Now, this is another note that I'll make too. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to share my screen on TikTok. Like I can do it. Like if I do this, I can do that. And sometimes for whatever reason, they'll flag me and I'm sure I'm using some kind of copyright or whatever. And then of course my face gets all cut off. I've got to figure this all out. So those that are on TikTok, I do the best I can. So I typically don't share my screen. I just kind of talk through the article. But anyway, this article here, let me start off with sharing my screen here. This is the article, Musk OpenAI and a trust problem that isn't going away. The AI industry built its reputation on responsibility. Musk versus OpenAI puts that story to the test. So there's a little bit of like a lawsuit kind of going on right now between the two. And it's kind of exposing a lot of this undercurrent movement going on in the AI industry. And that's typically what these lawsuits do because you have discovery. And when you have discovery, things start coming to the surface and we start learning a little bit more about it. So that's kind of what this article is going to be talking about. So we're going to kind of go through this article as we read this together. Now, like I said before, I don't read these articles. I just kind of skim through and say, yeah, okay, this is a conversation probably worth having. And just to give some context too, just know Elon Musk is actually suing OpenAI. And that's where this is originating from. So there's a lawsuit going there. I have not read into the details of that. I know I've skimmed on it, but there's a little bit there. But let's go ahead and start reading through this article. For years, tech platforms have pushed a simple promise. AI would make content creation easier, information more accessible, and online experiences better overall. That's like the promises, right? That promise is still alive, but consumers are getting smarter about who actually benefits from these systems and how much of what they see online is being shaped by algorithms, automation, and AI. And this is always the risk of reliance on AI. You're relying on some other system to generate the information that you are taking as fact. And there's a little bit of this. And as far as like, how much value am I getting out of this? And what does this look like? And who's really benefiting from AI at the most? Like where are we heading with all this stuff? And it's just rampant. It's in everything. It's being embedded in everything that we do. So it's very fascinating. Oh. All right. The platforms, meanwhile, are not slowing down. Instagram is normalizing AI creators. YouTube is embedding AI directly into editing workflows. And Reddit is becoming one of the most trusted sources online for real human opinions. Fascinating, right? Audiences still want convenience and speed, but they also want transparency, authenticity, and something that feels like a person made it. And there's this weird balancing going on right now as far as like AI, and like it's kind of obvious like when someone's using AI because it kind of all starts sounding the same. Like if you watch enough YouTube videos or whatever or scripts or on TikTok and things like that, you're like, this is all AI generated. They're the nuances of human communication is being taken away. And it's just kind of weird. It's kind of a weird space we're finding ourselves in. But these platforms, these Instagram and YouTube and things like that, they're wrestling with this as well. Like, how do you keep the authenticity there, but at the same time embrace the AI movement? Like, where's that balance at? And of course, they're trying to appeal to people coming in and constantly viewing the videos and that kind of stuff. So these are all big factors, that is just weighing into the whole thing. So now let's get into it. Musk and OpenAI are losing the moral high ground. The courtroom battle between Elon Musk and OpenAI is revealing something bigger than a legal dispute. It's showing how fast the AI industry's carefully crafted image of altruism and responsibility falls apart when there's real money on the table, right? So that's usually the case. Someone begins to benefit and it begins to change the way something is leveraged. And right now, where OpenAI was trying to change and revolutionize all these different industries, Now there's money entering into the room, and now the way it's being utilized could drastically change once money does enter, because now we're talking about $1 billion industry here, multi-billion dollar industry. So you can only imagine how this is just beginning to heat up. For years, AI leaders warned about existential risk and job loss while positioning themselves as responsible stewards of the future. Now, consumers are watching the same people fight over ownership, control, and billions in valuation. The contrast is hard to ignore, especially while AI companies continue pushing messaging about empowerment and human-centered technology, and layoffs and automation accelerate across industries. The trial itself may not directly affect consumers, but the optics matter. Okay, so and this is true. Like with all these lawsuits, if you go and you research any kind of like case law and you read about lawsuits going on between big corporations and what's happening there, you might feel an effect of that trickling down, but ultimately it doesn't ultimately affect you drastically in one way or the other. It kind of takes time for all that to happen. But that's the key there. The optics matter, because it's the optics that we read, like the headlines and that kind of stuff, the clickbait. That's what we then run with. And it does create that consumer idea about what's happening. We see this all the time in our real estate industry, that when a big news organization might sensationalize a interest rate cut or increase and use verbiage like we're headed towards a crash because interest rate increase, or whatever the terms might be, the consumer focus then hones in on that headline and then runs with that, and then it becomes the norm, and that becomes the topic point, even though drastically overall, a lot of what the headlines say doesn't affect everybody the same, right? So that's the optic, right? The public skepticism around AI was already growing, and billionaire infighting reinforces the fear that this technology is being shaped more by power and profit than by public good, okay? And this is that motivation behind these type of things that we got to be paying attention to. Now, this is what I like about this this article here is we're talking about AI on the global perspective and what's really happening, but they're going to hone in more specifically on the real estate agent. What this means for real estate professionals. It says consumers are becoming more skeptical of technology, first messaging that lacks visible human value. AI can absolutely improve workflows and efficiency, but trust, interpretation, and emotional intelligence are still what people want when they're making the biggest financial decisions of their lives. And this is the thing, and I would agree with that entire statement. Like, AI to me is great at doing that, the workflow and efficiencies of what we do. It's great at that. Like, I mean, I can use it to handle a lot of different tasks for me that was taking me away from doing the things that I need to be doing, which is personal connection with people. And AI and that kind of stuff will never help build the trust. It's just never going to go there. Trust is built by that human response and interaction. They need to be able to see you being real and your human behavior and the way your idiosyncrasies and what all that looks like to build that trust. Like, how is it that you relay information, and the verbiage and the inflections of your voice is indicators to the other person you're talking to if you're trustworthy or not, or what your intentions might be. AI and that kind of stuff doesn't give that. A perfect example of this is like text messaging all the time, right? We all know that if you're trying to explain something in detail, a text message is not the way to do it. There is a ton of stuff lost in translation. And so that's where we still are very relevant in the whole conversation about AI. It says Instagram is still trying to define what original content actually means. And this is where it gets really complicated. Like, what does that term mean, original content? Because, I mean, it's kind of mixed in. Instagram appears to be testing a feature that would let users swap out the text on someone else's reel and repost it with their own take. The feature briefly appeared in Instagram's Help Center before disappearing, a sign it's still being worked on internally. That's weird. What makes the test interesting is the timing. It arrived just days after Instagram announced stronger penalties for accounts that repeatedly repost unoriginal content. This is that struggle, right? Where does this make sense? The platform says it wants to reward originality. It also keeps building tools that make remixing easier. That contradiction isn't accidental. Trends, shared formats, and iterative content keep users engaged, and Instagram knows it. So kind of weird, right? It's like, this is where just things get really complicated. And like, you've got the business model of like Instagram and all these places where they're trying to make money, and they're trying to make certain influencers be pushed to the top for the algorithm, so then it can send them more ad and get more ad click. So they need to be engaging and exciting. And then when someone shares just their own personal experiences and they're not put together that well, and they're just being real and being very social, could kind of get lost in all the noise. And I think it comes from just that drive to be an influencer. It's like, I want to be an influencer. I want to build my career in this. I want this to be my job, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that drives that unreal, unauthentic persona that people put out there. And I think we're just negating the whole social aspect of what social media was. And it is becoming more like just clickbait. And I think this is that weird marrying of the two. What this means for real estate professionals: you don't need to invent completely original content formats to perform well. The most effective strategy is often just adding your own perspective, expertise, or local insight to trends people already recognize and engage with. Instagram is preparing for a future where AI creators are normal. It says Instagram has tested a new AI creator label that creators can add to their profiles if they post AI-generated content. The label would appear on profiles and throughout the feed, Reels, and Explore, giving audiences more visibility into when AI plays a major role in what they're seeing. I like that. I like the idea of segmenting AI content from authentic content. So if I'm going in as a consumer of social media content like TikTok, it would be nice to have a filter where I can say, look, I want everything that is done with AI to be in its own little category. And if I want to see authentic, communication to be in its other category. And if I can separate the two, that would be great. Now that's hard. I'm sure that the logistics of that is very complicated. But, sometimes the AI I find very funny, right? If someone's doing weird video with AI, I think it's kind of cool, right? You can use it and it's kind of neat. But sometimes I want to be able to log into social media platforms to get advice from real people, given their real authentic experiences and talking through that. And I don't want to have to be the one sitting here going, did this really happen? Is this real? I'd rather be able to know that those are separated. I think that's great. All right. What this means for real estate professionals: consumers are becoming more aware of and sensitive to AI-generated content. Using AI tools is unlikely to hurt your credibility on its own, but transparency and authenticity still matter. Audiences generally care less about whether AI helped create something and more about whether it still feels trustworthy and human. And that's where I would say, guys, like, to me, again, we're talking about like my lack of expertise on the technology front, which is helpful. I want to get better at that. At the same time, I really want to be as authentic as possible. And if that doesn't grow a channel and that doesn't grow, clicks and all that kind of stuff, I'm doing this because I enjoy it. Like, I enjoy coming on here and being real and raw and talking about these things and all that. I like that. I don't want to use AI to come up with ideas and all this kind of stuff. I want it to be authentic and me being just me talking. And I think there's a value in that. But what I don't like, and I got to be honest, is this drives me nuts, is every once in a while I'll get like a DM or whatever, and there's trolls out there. That's not a big deal to me. But sometimes like they're giving me criticisms and they'll say things like, well, you're scripted and you're using, AI to come up with this and all that kind of stuff. And the funny thing is I'm not. Like, that's not what I'm doing. If that was the case, I'd be very much scripted. I wouldn't be stuttering and I wouldn't be, doing any of half the stuff I'm doing. I'm not doing that. And I want it to be authentic. Now, it doesn't mean I don't use AI in the background to help me kind of come up with like structure of like where to cut and do shorts and TikToks and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've got AI that kind of goes through my videos and analyzes what I said and kind of splices it together. I mean, that's a great use case, in my opinion, for AI. But anyway, it says what this means. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Reddit. And this is the interesting part. Reddit search is becoming a bigger discovery tool. For years, Reddit's search function was a punchline. The fastest way to find useful discussions was a Google search with Reddit tacked onto the end. That's changing. Reddit says weekly search usage jumped 30% year over year as the platform improves its internal search engine and rolls out AI-powered features like Reddit Answers. The company also said search is now one of its biggest drivers of user growth and retention, reinforcing something marketers have been seeing for a while. People increasingly trust real conversations over polished brand messaging. And this is where AI, if people are using AI exclusively, that makes such a drastic distinction between the two. Because I'm right in that camp. When I go onto YouTube, I will swipe away almost every single time within the first few seconds if I feel like the video itself is AI, like, or even scripted. Like, I'm done. I'm leaving. I love the just real conversations. Matter of fact, like for like help in going through YouTube and stuff, there's a guy on YouTube. I had to look up his name, but he literally just finds a topic. Someone might have asked him a topic, and then he just goes and records a video of him clicking and going through things and sharing his screen and talking about stuff. He has been more helpful in helping me figure out things than any of the YouTube gurus out there that have these extremely polished slides and transition videos. He just gets on and just walks through everything. And he's gaining so many subscribers and stuff because it's authentic. So that to me has way more value. That's what I'm looking for. What this means for real estate professionals. Consumers are researching decisions through discussion-based platforms where people share unfiltered opinions and experiences, right? I want to hear from other people that's experienced what I've experienced. That helps me. Reputation, community presence, and authentic participation are becoming more valuable than highly polished marketing alone. And this is where, like for you guys as real estate agents or anybody out there doing any kind of content, like if all we're doing is feeding the algorithm and we're negating providing value back to anybody around us because we're just trying to do what the algorithm wants us to do, we're not authentic anymore. Like we kind of lose that human connection. And I truly think the more AI becomes prevalent, the more people are going to want that authenticity. And I think that's where the win is. I think it's in doing things that make you uncomfortable that is not polished. I think that's the win because that is so relatable for people. People will connect to that. And I think that's so good. YouTube wants to make copyright claims less painful for creators. YouTube is testing a new AI tool that lets creators generate royalty-free music directly inside YouTube Studio to replace copyrighted audio and videos. Instead of muting a clip or risking a takedown, creators can swap in AI-generated instrumental tracks designed to match the original mood and pacing. See, to me, that's a great use case for AI, right? That's not changing what I'm doing here. It's just providing a source for me to kind of make my videos feel a little bit more inviting and fits the mode and that kind of stuff. I think that's great. The feature could be a real win for smaller creators and businesses that struggle with affordable, safe-to-use music. It also reflects where platforms are headed. AI tools built directly into the creation process, designed to remove friction and keep creators inside the platform ecosystem. So it's not altruistic, right? They still gain. They get keep you on their platform more and editing of their videos and all that kind of stuff in their system. But still, as a creator, I think that's great. I think that's a good, helpful use of AI. What this means for real estate professionals. Creating video content is getting easier, which removes one of the most common reasons agents avoid it. As platforms streamline, production, consistency, and authenticity will matter more than polished production value. So all we're talking about is the point of entry is getting much, much easier, right? The Musk versus OpenAI trial is accelerating public distrust in the AI industry, okay? Instagram's AI created labels signal AI generated content is becoming mainstream. Okay, it's just a summary. But you get the idea of this. Like, and if I was to sit back here and just say, like, what would I do inside of this? Like, what kind of takeaways would I take personally from this? Like, I would go through and look at your own social media posts. Like, ensure that what you are actually posting is not about AI and it's not just AI generated script. It is literally you talking about problems or scenarios or experiences, things that you have, physically lived through that will be helpful to those that are watching your videos or engaging with your social media content. I think that's what people are craving. And I think that's going to really help accelerate your relevancy when you're starting to work with clients. I think that authenticity is more important than anything else you could do. And not overthinking it. Like, don't sit here and try to analyze it. Well, what if I say this in the video? I gotta have this great introduction. I'm gonna have this great closing. I gotta have a couple, like 3 points inside of there. And I've gotta have all this, this is all those things that keep you from actually just doing it. There's a big YouTuber out there. I can't remember the video influencers. And he always say, you just gotta hit record. And he says it in almost in every single video. You just gotta hit record. And that's the truth. It's just like, you just got to do it. Don't overthink it and just start doing it. I would move away from any kind of like AI generated posts, that the post that you're posting could be more value driven by just being authentic. Like, look at your social media posts and say, hey, could I have been more authentic in that, more relationship driven in that content? Or am I just trying to play an algorithm? Because we want to speak directly to the consumer and our clients and actually help them. And I think that's where the value is really, really at. It might not accelerate you into the thousands in the stratosphere of a creator and influencer, but I think the ones that you do influence is actually going to be helpful, and they're going to be using you as a real estate agent. So that's what I would say. All right, let's jump into article number 2. That took a while, guys. I know it did. I've spent way too long on that. This one here is going to be an article about how to conduct an honest mid-year audit of your real estate business. I said this at the beginning. Every single year with our agents, we ask and encourage them to do some business goal setting. We set up some goal setting in each office, and we kind of go through this. We have a tool and program that helps them to kind of plug in some numbers, whether they're conversion ratios, what kind of closings they've had, and it does all kinds of calculation, trying to figure out how many touch points they got to have, what the conversion is, all those type of things. And it gives them a dollar number and all that. And associates, like, it's really kind of cool, is because it takes every contact and gives them a dollar amount. And I think that's really cool, because if you can put into a term that every contact you have is worth XYZ in dollars, then when you start making calls or start prospecting, it's a whole lot easier, because you say, well, look, I know every time I make a call, it's worth $30, right? And that's the very, 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 very important thing. So anyway, this article is going to be talking about the mid-year audit, going through, looking at your business plan, and seeing if you're on point for the next 6 months to hit the target that you set at the beginning of the year. So let's get into this article here. This is written by, Daryl Davis, titled How to Conduct an Honest Mid-Year Audit of Your Real Estate Business. Begin preparing now for this summer's mid-year business audit. I'm not going to read everything on this. I'm just going to jump straight to the content. How to do an honest mid-year audit. Here's how to do that audit honestly, whether you're running it now or at any check-in point in your business. Start with listings, not GCI. Okay, the first point is start with listings, not GCI, not gross commission income. It's the listings. It's the total amount of listings. And he goes on to tell you why that's the case. Most agents open the wrong spreadsheet. They pull up closed income year to date and try to read the year from there. That number tells you what already happened, right? You're reading into the past. It's a lagging indicator, he goes on to say. It's a lagging indicator. In other words, it's lagging behind the actual metric and number that you need to know that tells you what's coming. So tracking the listing. Your listing inventory is the leading indicator, right? So one is the lagging. If you're looking at your GCI and you're saying that's my numbers, that's the lagging. If you look at the listing inventory you currently have, that's the leading one. That's the one that's going to lead to more GCI. Listings predict the next 90 days of your business. Pull up your active listings. Pull up your pending pipeline. That's where the truth lives. If the pipeline looks thin, closed income 3 months from now will look thin too, no matter how busy you feel today. That's just logical, right? It's just logical. Then look at one more thing that almost nobody tracks: the gap between conversions and appointments. Count the real conversions you had with potential clients over the last 30 days. Then count how many of those turn into actual appointments. If you're having a lot of conversations and very few appointments, the funnel is broken somewhere. Usually it's not where you think. Your calendar tells you more truth than your bank account. That's a good statement. Your calendar tells you more truth than your bank account. The bank account reports the past. The calendar predicts the future. When agents run an honest audit, they start with the calendar. Now, I love this tracking number. We talk about this in our company all of the time, is knowing that conversion rate Okay, so if I know I'm making, let's just say hypothetically, I'm making 50 calls, and out of that 50 calls, I'm only converting 50 of those calls into 5 appointments, and that could be buyer or seller appointments. If that's the case, then I've got a conversion problem, right? I need to improve in my conversion to bring my numbers up. It might not be that I have a problem with having enough contacts to call. It might just be that my verbiage and the way I'm approaching those contacts is broken. That's a great learning opportunity. When you find a weakness at that point, you know exactly where to hone in and get trained and equipped and learn and focus in and critique and get better at. Because if you have 50 calls you're making and you can bring that conversion up to say 10 for 50, you've doubled your income, right? Just simple math. Those are great numbers to track. And that's why he's making the point. Your calendar tells you more truth than your bank account. The bank account is, again, that lagging metric. It just shows you what you've done already. It does not predict anything to come. It doesn't tell you anything. So there's no planning involved in your bank account. The database health check. After listings and conversions, the third thing to audit is your database, not the size of it, the health of it. And this is very, very true. I hear this all the time. Agents will talk about, I have 10,000 contacts in my database. All right. They brag about that. And he goes on to say this. Most agents brag about the number of contacts they have. That's the wrong number. The real question is how many contacts you've had a meaningful conversation with in the past 90 days. All right. So we're going from conversion. We're now going into how many contacts. Are you actively calling and reaching out to these people? Run that number. For most agents, it's hard to swallow. The database they thought they had is actually a list of names, not a community of relationships. So, and this typically happens when I ask agents, like, how large is your sphere of influence? And they'll throw out this crazy big number, like 1,000, right? And then I'll ask them a follow-up question like, how many of those thousands of people have you actually called this month, right? And they might drop it down to like, well, 20 or 30 of them. I was like, so actually you have a sphere of influence of 20 or 30 that you feel comfortable calling, right? So, that's the reality. An honest audit surfaces that reality early enough to fix it. All right. The signs you're busy, but not productive. Busy feels like progress. It isn't. And the agents who can't tell the difference are the ones who end most years frustrated, not because they didn't work hard, but because they worked hard on the wrong things. Here's how to tell. Busy agents can describe every task they did yesterday. Productive agents can tell you which task produced an appointment. The tales are consistent across coaching calls. And he goes on to kind of lay out what those things are, and I will talk about that. But here's the thing. There is a lot of busy work you could be doing. And a true audit is going back and looking at your time. Now, I actually, years ago, set up what I did, and this is just a tip that I've taught few of agents to do, and they've embraced it, and it's helpful. When it comes time to draft a business plan, and when you start thinking in context about what he's describing here, time management, time blocking, and how to stay on point with your calendar to see if what you are doing is productive work or just busy work. And what I did is I took a few days and I wrote down every single responsibility that I do as my job, okay? Everything that I do. I mean, I went down into the minuscule thing, right? From text to calls to emails to news articles, you name it, all that kind of stuff was written out in a list. I began to then take that list and I looked back over my time and what I was doing. I went through my email accounts, my text messages, and my calls, and I began to analyze what it was that was actually busy work and productive work. And I wrote down an entire list. I took that list and I divided it into those two camps. And once I divided them into those two camps, knowing that I still needed to do some of the busy work, right? That's how I move the needle. That's how I move things from, pending to close. I then began to take all that list and divide it out amongst my day. And I went into the Google Calendar and I created 2 Google Calendars. One I called my ideal week. Now, this is coming off of a journal that I did years ago, and the ideal week. And what I would do is I would take all of those items that I did and I would do blocks of time Monday through Friday, and I would allocate each one of those tasks into a block. So if it was like email, phones, and calls, I would take maybe the first hour or two of every single day and I would put that in a block. I then would say, I would have 2 days for morning appointments and then evening appointments. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I would do evening appointments. Tuesday, Thursday, I would do morning appointments. And I would put a block. It says morning appointments, evening appointments throughout the week. Okay. So I built this entire calendar out with 2 calendars. And then what I would do is I had my main calendar. I would go about my week and allocate and set my appointments and then track when I did the things that were on my list. And what Google Calendar allowed me to do is overlay those 2 calendars. So I could do a quick time audit. If I was performing well, then I would open up my ideal week, layer over my actual calendar and see how they aligned. If I was messing up allocating my time, or I wasn't doing the things I said I needed to be doing that produces results, I would then be aware of that and would correct that. And little by little, I developed better and better habits to keep myself focused on the things that are productive and not just the busy work. So that's just a tip on some of the things that I've done to help myself stay on point, to be better at managing my time, and also being very much aware about the things that are making me money and producing results versus the things that are just busy time, wasting time, right? So just a quick thing that I've done many, many times. He goes on, the inbox runs the day instead of the calendar. Every ping gets a response. The important work waits until tomorrow, which never arrives. And this happens, this is one of those points, right? More hours on social media than on the phone. Scrolling feels like marketing. It isn't. Marketing pieces are always in progress and never actually ship. Perfectionism is procrastination wearing a better outfit. Boy, that is very true, guys. Tools and courses are collected like trophies. Meanwhile, the CRM they already pay for hasn't been opened this week. Guys, the CRM literally is the foundation for your entire business. If you are not in there every single day, I can almost 100% guarantee you that you are in the pattern of ups and downs, okay? And the ups and downs is this. I get so busy because I generate so much business because I don't manage my time well that my sales go up. Once all the sales kind of go out, I then go back into my systems and I generate more sales again. And so I'm just in and out of this income thing. And what you realize year over year, I'm doing the exact same thing over and over and my business is not growing. It's not scaling, right? And that comes from not having those systems in place to keep you on point. And that really comes to your CRM. Appointments are light, activities are heavy. How many appointments you have and how many activities, right? The schedule is full of prep, admin, and content creation and empty of actual human conversations that can turn into business. Like if you want to know if you're growing in the real estate industry and you're excelling in it, that's it, guys. Like if you were to give yourself an honest opinion about your performance right now, go and look at your calendar right now. Okay? Look at your inbox and tell me if you're going to be spending the day more time working on social media posts or some kind of marketing or responding to emails or calls or working on transactions at the closing, then you are actually meeting in front of actual people. Okay? That's the real question, right? The last one is a dead giveaway. Calendar full, pipeline thin. When the calendar is packed, but the pipeline is empty, activity has replaced production, activity doesn't pay. All right. Do it early, do it often. You get the idea, guys. That's the audit. Going through and taking your time to see what's going on inside of your database, what's going on inside of your business plan, and where you're aligning with that business plan currently. It's key. It's so key to know if you're on point or not. Get in the data, see what you're doing, and be honest with yourself and see if you're actually being diligent in your work. I think it's very crucial to do this. Most agents don't take the time to do this. Take a Saturday morning and be diligent in this work. Take some intentional time and get in the numbers. Look at yourself and audit yourself and ask yourself those hard questions. Am I managing my time? Am I managing my tasks correctly? Right? Am I doing the ups and downs or am I steadily growing my business? If I'm not steadily growing my business, what can I do now to begin to change those things around? Right? What is it you can be doing now? All right. We're going to get to these last 2 articles and we'll wrap up the show. These last 2 are just for fun. This is just a conversation's sake. Get you guys thinking. The articles we're going to be talking about, and this is by the National Association of Realtors. Both of these are. And it's 5 new construction trends to watch this year. And then what is double drenching? Okay. So we're going to talk about this. This is relevant because we need to understand what it is the consumer is looking for. If this is becoming the trend, if you're a builder or developer, very important, you might want to be putting some of these things in there. If you're an agent that represents a builder, you should be taking these to the builder and saying, hey, look, just saw this report. This is what buyers and people are looking for that is trending right now. Consider kind of working this into your designs. And then if you're an agent that represents buyers, know that this is probably what they're coming for and then what they might be looking for. Okay, so let's get into some of what these things are. From stone fireplaces to show pantries, these 5 emerging home design trends are already influencing buyer expectations. We're going to jump straight into it. Number 1, floor to ceiling stacked stone fireplaces. Okay, this I'm beginning to see this in a lot of homes, and it's these big open rooms, and as an accent, as a focus point in real estate, in the home, is they're building these large stone fireplaces that goes all the way up. The dominant fireplace material this year is light, dry stack limestone, Lauder or Indiana cut, running from hearth to ridge line on cathedral walls, usually paired with a chunky white oak mantle. A buyer who walks into a 2018 build and sees a tiled fireplace is surrounded by white shiplap is going to read it as dated faster than the comps suggest. Be ready for that conversation. Guys, shiplap has been overdone. It's overdone. I'm still seeing it in a lot of homes, and it's not ugly. It's just that's not what the new current homes are looking like. So if you're thinking about a remodel, if you're being asked by your sellers what a good remodel would be, if they have any kind of fireplace or any kind of big open area, it would be something like this. This would be extremely appealing to a lot of people. It's clean, but it brings a little bit of the natural elements from the outside in. And it's not as modern anymore. It's a little more neutral. All right, this is another one. Number 2, black framed windows, top to bottom. Black metal mullion windows are showing up in starter homes and custom builds alike. Gym walls, primary bedrooms, dining rooms, you name it. Replacing windows is one of the highest cost cosmetic changes a homeowner can make. And we're now in a market where buyers are starting to deduct it on resale. Walk your sellers through that math before they price. So just take a moment and look at this photo and tell me if that's not a beautiful look. I'm going to turn on my shared screen here so everybody on TikTok can see it as well. See that? It frames it in very nice. And again, we still have that stone fireplace we were talking about. For those on TikTok, there's what we were talking about, the stone fireplace earlier. And then you have this one, right? It's still the element, and the black trim around the windows makes this kind of pop a little bit better. Wood-clad ceilings and real exposed beams. Tongue and groove white oak planking on tray and cathedral ceilings is becoming frequently paired with real or conveniently faux structural beams. This ceiling as fifth wall trend has graduated out of kitchens and is now showing up in primary bedrooms and screen porches. When a buyer says a room feels custom in 2026, 8 times out of 10, they're reacting to something happening above their heads. And this is true. They're looking at this and they're going, wow, man, this is like custom woodwork, right? Doesn't that make sense? And again, notice in this photo too, there's still a stone area here, a stone accent wall. But look at the beams there. Isn't that pretty? 4, white oak cabinets and two-tone kitchens. Stained or rift-cut white oak wood on islands and pantries is being paired with painted perimeter cabinets in warm white, soft greige, or deep matte. A handful of homes are pushing farther into walnut and sipple, a slight warming up from pure oak. Tell your sellers that an all-white kitchen with gray quartz is not a deal breaker, but it's no longer the safe, neutral default it was in 2020. If they have any budget for a refresh, the island is the highest leverage place to spend it. So we take a second to kind of analyze this a little bit. We'll see what we're talking about, right? We see the accent of the cabinets below. You see the white above. Still has a modern feel to it, but it brings a little bit of depth to the kitchen. And it's kind of a play on the typical subway tile. It's got a little bit more texture to the tile now. Number 5 is wet bars and show pantries on display. Almost every basement now has a built-in, fully loaded wet bar, and walk-in pantries went from utilitarian to second kitchen, with its own range, sink, floating shelves, the works. The kitchen has expanded to a back-of-house room, and buyers are starting to expect both. This is becoming very common. There's a lot of these type of built-ins being done in basements, and it has to do with a solid color. How to use this information with buyers. Never lead with trends. I lead with what the buyer wants to do with their life in the house, and then I use the trend list privately in my head as a way to translate their language. When a buyer says, I want it to feel warm, I apply that idea to lighting and finishes. When they say, I want it to feel modern but not cold, that can translate to black windows with a stone fireplace, not a glass and steel box. Knowing the current visual vocabulary makes you faster at decoding what they actually want. Now, we need to pause for just a second and think through this. Like, why would she do that, right? Why would they say that I'm not going to lead with this kind of stuff? Well, the simple answer to that, sorry, I'm going to try to adjust my camera there. The simple answer to that is you could easily insert your opinion into what they like and what they don't like if you're not careful. And I've seen this many, many times. I see a lot of agents that their client will make a comment and they immediately start interjecting their opinion into that before they realize that the client themselves is actually, it's not a negative comment about the property at all, but they're so ready to defend it. So the whole point of what she's making here is never lead with the trend, is because you're trying to figure out to navigate what it is the client actually likes. So being aware of trends helps you to be able to answer that question correctly within the verbiage that they're using. So being aware of that helps you to match that look to what they are visualizing in their mind, right? Does that make sense? Like, don't just be so quick to jump on every single trend, basically. Use trends for a resale safety check. If a buyer is choosing between 2019 spec home and a 2025 spec home at similar prices, I can show them with photos from my own tours what the 2019 home is going to look like to the next buyer in 2030. Not to talk them out of the older home, but to help them set aside an honest cosmetic update budget. With sellers, use trends to set up an update plan. Knowing that black framed windows, an updated island, and a stone fireplace each move the needle more than a fresh coat of greige paint helps me give them an honest priority list. So being aware of these type of things when sellers are asking us questions about updates that they should be doing, this obviously makes it very easy for us to say, well, here's what we're seeing happening, right? That's where we need to understand these things. All right. There's that one. Let's go into the very final one before we wrap up today's show. This is the final article we're going to talk about. And this one comes just because I was talking about J-Lo's house and I made a comment last week about going through that. I got asked the question, any tips on sleeping? I mean, yeah. Clear your mind before you go to bed. Don't worry about what's to come tomorrow. Learn to not worry. That's the biggest thing that keeps people from sleeping is they don't worry. They worry too much. I don't know if this is more of a spam, but hey, there you go. It's a challenge. It's a discipline. You got to develop it. So this next article comes from the idea that when I was going over J-Lo's house and she put it on the market and there was a living room or a dining room that had the color all on the walls and the ceiling. And then there was an accent wall with wallpaper. And I was commenting on how beautiful that was. And I was talking to my wife about it. And she said, oh yeah, that's called drenching. So I went out and actually found an article that kind of talked about what drenching is and what that looks like to kind of go through that a little bit more. Oh, thanks. My fingers are tired. So bye and have a good day. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. Hope get some sleep. That's great. So let's get into this topic. What is the double drenching home trend? Learn more about the latest painting technique being dubbed one of the hottest emerging home design trends of the year. Now, I will say, like right now, when I look at this, it is, it's very trendy and it looks great right now. Like, I look at drenched homes, and I'm like, yep, I like the way that looks. But it's one of those things, like if it could be done wrong very easily, in my opinion. I think it could be done very wrong. And then it's also one of those trends that if you're going to do it, it probably won't last as long as some other trends will. I think it's very trend focused. So that's just my personal opinion. If you guys are interior designers out there, you can correct me all day long. I'm just Like, it is a bold move to paint your whole room one color, right? But you just got to do it right. A new paint trend is taking over interior design, double drenching. Building on the popularity of color-drenched rooms, this emerging trend takes things a step farther by using two closely related hues to cover every surface in a space, from walls and ceilings to trim and architectural details. The technique was coined by the UK paint brand Little Green, which helped popularize the idea of fully enveloping a room in coordinated shades rather than leaving any surface white or neutral. So there's the context about what drenching is and what this looks like. So it's not necessarily that it's all the same color. There's a little bit of hues and changes inside that, but they're all part of the same kind of color family. It could be all the same color though. That was J-Lo's house, was literally the whole room was the same color. A recent survey of designers and home stagers conducted by Fixer.com called out double drenching as one of the 10 hottest emerging trends for bathroom design this year. So bathrooms are the most common place to do that in, right? But it's not just being used in bathroom spaces, but also incorporated throughout the house. So bathroom is first, and it's now starting to show up everywhere else. A double drenching approach is about fully enveloping a space with color. Ruth Modersheed, creative director at Little Green, told Real Simple, "There is no space for white ceilings or skirting with this decorative style." She adds that the technique can either highlight architectural details or help define zones within a room, depending on the color palette chosen. So let me share my screen again. Flame, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate that greatly. So this is an example of a now, I don't like this one personally, but anyway, this is the color drenched room. There is a lot of that color going on here, but you get the idea, right? This is all the same color, but you can see the accent. They got some light going on inside of the windows. They got the couches that are the exact same color as the walls. But you got like some gold pops going on. So what stands out in this room is the accent, the accessories. The room itself and the shape is not taking the focus. It's the items in the room that becomes the focal point. Like I would call the lamp in the center of that table, which typically would be like an off-balance stand, is right dead center. It becomes where your eye draws to. Like when I immediately opened this up, my eye went straight to that lamp. And so that's typically what kind of happens with this. The other one they showed was this one. And this one right here has like it's the same color. It's not white, but it's a different shade of the wall on the side. But then even your inset for your windows is the same color. So there's no white going on here. The wood is a light, the flooring is a light wood color. The furniture, again, is the focal point. It becomes the center of focus. And again, they're kind of using the lamp. To be honest, it draws me back into the lamp. Let's see, is there another one in here? No. Interior designers are especially drawn to the flexibility of the trend. Paige Garland, founder of Apartmental Therapy, that it offers an accessible way to achieve a high-impact look using only paint. Rather than relying on decor or structural changes, the color itself can become space's defining design feature. Now, I will say this too. Another way I could see a big use case for this is where you are trying to define an awkward space and not knowing where the living room and dining room is. I've seen that done pretty creatively. It says restraint is key. Designer Sarah Ivory of Sarah Ivory Design also told Apartment Therapy, too many colors can disrupt cohesion, but the trend can extend beyond just paint. For example, designers sometimes pair complementary finishes like wallpaper, stone, or fabric in related tones to reinforce the layered effect. Double drenching can be adapted to many aesthetics, from moody and dramatic to soft and serene. It also works in both modern and traditional homes, either emphasizing architectural character or compensating for a lack of it. Let me just do this. Let's do this. Let's just do a quick double drenching. Let's just go do a Google search and look at some images here just for fun. Oh my gosh, some of these are just wild. Yeah, so that one's got green. Find a better one. Oh man. Okay, here we go. Look at this one. Double drenching. So here's an example of the multiple different hues and tones, right? I like how on TikTok all you can see is my eyeballs. What is double drenching? So look at the different hues. They're all green. Even the rug is green. But you have a darker green trim, a different green ceiling, different green in the window inset. I mean, it's wild, right? Look, right there, 3 different colors of green. Here's one. Why should I try double drenching in my schemes? So now you've got like a green with a blue, which are complementary, and then a blue tub. There's the blend. The door, it's the same color as the walls. Here's again, different colors of hue and different color in the same family. Yellow, pink kitchen. You get the idea about what this looks like. I mean, it can be done extremely well. I mean, some of these are just beautiful. Some of them are just beautiful designs. But that's double drenching. Now you guys know. Now I know. Thanks to my wife. Now I know. All right. Very good. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream today. I do appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate all the follows, the comments, even the one about sleep. You know, I actually, just so you guys know, I mean, I used to wrestle with not getting enough sleep, and every once in a while I still do, you know, and I have noticed that really what caused a lack of sleep is that your mind is roaming. It's not calm. It's not at peace. It's worrying about what's to come. And that creates a very difficult thing to wrestle with. And really what a lack of not being able to fall asleep is a representation of is that you're letting life circumstances and everything kind of put the pressure on you. And it does come down to not managing time, maybe not even managing people. That creates an issue where you can't go to sleep, because when it's all quiet and silent, your mind begins to think about everything and you're just not at peace. So, you know, if you want to sleep well, don't worry less. And I know it's not an easy thing to do, but that really is it. And I'm a believer, in Christ, and, you know, there's peace there, guys. There's peace. Anyway. All right. Thank you guys for watching today's live stream. I do greatly appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, where you're watching me now on whatever platform. You can go back and watch this live stream recording on my YouTube channel, The Real Estate Advantage. And please go check it out, subscribe, like, follow, all those type of things. I greatly appreciate that. I'm excited about doing this. Like I said earlier, this is the 50th episode of the Daily Brief that I've been doing. I see it as just a milestone. You know, whatever that might be, it's fun. I've enjoyed doing this. I'm going to continue doing this. It's great for me just to stay on point. Hopefully it's helpful for you. So that is the end of this stream. I went a little over, but I do thank each and every one of you guys for being here, taking the time out of your busy days to come in here and hopefully learn something that's helpful for you. So with all that being said, that is your real estate brief for today. If you found this helpful, please consider hitting the like button to tell YouTube you would like more of this type of content, and consider subscribing or following me to join a community of real estate agents that are focused on building a business that is relationship focused first. There is always more that I could be talking about. I will do that tomorrow right here where you're watching me. I'll see you then. Take care. Have an amazing, blessed day.